Isiah Factor Uncensored starts now.
And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. Well, it's that time. Many of us will be getting on the road to travel for the holiday, going out of town for Thanksgiving. So we have some tips to keep you safe. Let's get to it. We brought in our expert, Doug Shoup with AAA Texas, to tell you how to get prepared for the roads. It may be crazy out there because people are fearing flying right now, being caught up in the travel delays. So, Doug, what can we expect on the roads this year?
Hey there, Isiah. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's going to be extremely crowded out there on roadways across Texas, but also across the country. AAA Texas is projecting 5.8 million people here in the Lone Star State will be taking a trip of 50 miles or more away from home. Now, the vast majority are going to be going by automobile. We're looking at 5.3 million Texans taking a road trip. About 328,000 will fly here in Texas, and then about 140,000 will take another mode of transportation, like a train, a bus, or even a cruise for this holiday. Nationally, we are anticipating nearly 82 million Americans are going to be traveling this week for Thanksgiving, and our official Thanksgiving forecast begins tomorrow and runs through next Monday. So in those 5 days across the country, nearly 82 million people will be traveling. About 73 million will be taking road trips, and then about 6 million flying nationwide.
So if you're staying at home, then you're in the odd number. You're doing well. You don't have to worry about the heavy traffic out there. But for those who are on the road, what's some advice for them if they're traveling, driving? I remember not too long ago, we were talking about COVID and traveling with mask on your face. Now that that's over, what are some of the big concerns about hitting the road for the holiday?
Well, most people want to know, when is the best time to hit the road? When is it going to be the most congested? And we are anticipating that Tuesday afternoon, so tomorrow afternoon and Wednesday afternoon, are going to be the heaviest on roadways all across the country. And then also Sunday after Thanksgiving, as people return home, it's going to be very busy throughout the day on Sunday. The best advice is to leave as early in the day as you possibly can. You still want to drive at times when you're normally awake, so you're not drowsy behind the wheel, but you want to get up, have your coffee, hit the road. What you really want to do, especially on Tuesday and Wednesday, is avoid those afternoon rush hour times. That's when people are going to be heading home from work or making those last minute trips to the grocery store for, things for Thanksgiving dinner. And you really want to avoid the afternoon hours on Tuesday and Wednesday because that's going to be the busiest. So just get up and head out as early as you can. We're also really encouraging drivers to inspect their vehicles before that long road trip. We're anticipating coming to the roadside rescue of 29,000 stranded drivers in Texas alone over the next 5 days. Now, the primary reasons why people will call AAA for help will be dead batteries, flat tires, and then people locking themselves out of their vehicle. So check your tire tread, check your tire inflation. Make sure your battery has a good charge and you've cleaned off any corrosion around the battery terminals. Most batteries last 3 to 5 years. So if your battery is 3 years old or older, you might want to have it tested before that long road trip. Of course, you also want to check your headlights, your taillights, turn signals, make sure they're all working properly so that other drivers know what your intentions are on the roadway. And finally, replace those windshield wiper blades if they're streaking, because you need to clearly be able to see out of that windshield should you encounter rain along your journey.
And if you're going up north, I think we're anticipating, some very cold weather. So you have to be prepared for that, especially with batteries, with tires, in case you run into snow, just how far north you're going. Here in Texas, you probably won't have to worry about that, but you have to be winterized and winter ready if you're going up north.
You are absolutely correct. And that's why we also recommend that you have an emergency roadside kit in your vehicle. And this is something that you can purchase at any discount store or, a big box retail store, or you can just make one on your own. Things that you should have: jumper cables, a warning triangle. Should you break down, you want to let other motorists know that your, vehicle is stopped there alongside the roadway. You want to have some basic tools. You want to have bottles of water, non-perishable food. And if you are driving to areas that are expecting winter weather, have extra blankets with you in the car, some extra jackets, so that should you encounter trouble along the roadway, you're going to stay warm, you're going to be comfortable. And then, of course, don't forget that mobile phone charger, so that should you need to call AAA for help, you're going to have the battery in your phone to do so.
I think that's the last thing people will forget about, making sure they have everything they need for that damn cell phone, Doug.
Yeah.
Now, if we have like maybe college students coming home for the holiday break or traveling for the holiday break, would you advise them? There's a lot of technology out there and there's a lot of weirdos out there too, but would you advise them to have their location services on, GPS on, or on their phone rather, locations so their family can monitor them as they travel along if they're going a long distance somewhere?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Share your location with your loved ones so that they can track your journey, and that's not going to distract you.
And welcome back to the Factor Uncensored. Right now, you and your family probably gearing up to go out of town for the holidays, so we have the tips you need. Let's get back to Doug Shoup with AAA Texas.
And we also want to remind people that every state in America has a slow down, move over law. What that means is if you see a tow truck, a police car, an ambulance, a fire truck stopped on the side of the highway with their lights flashing and they're assisting motorists who are stranded, you are required by law to get out of that lane closest to the emergency vehicle. Or if you can't safely get out of that lane, you need to slow way down. And this is really intended to protect those roadside heroes who are out there doing their best to help us as stranded motorists, get back on our way. And so we really need to give those emergency responders the space that they need to do their job safely.
And Doug, for those who may be traveling, we're talking about the need for being paying attention, attentive drivers out there, because you may be going to an area you're not familiar with. You may not know the patterns of traffic, the flow of traffic in a new city that you may be visiting for the holidays. How important is it that you pay attention? And people who may be, out there driving, drinking and driving as well, being attentive to your surroundings in that car, looking out for yourself and the other driver as well.
Yeah, you are so right. I mean, we all need to be watching out for one another. And when you mention about impaired driving, that Wednesday before Thanksgiving is often a time where friends gather, they go out and celebrate. We want this Thanksgiving to be remembered for those great times with our loved ones and not remembered for a horrific tragedy. And that's why AAA has joined Mothers Against Drunk Driving for a 5-year initiative to reduce impaired driving deaths. And, unfortunately, from 2019 to 2023, 868 lives were lost in impaired driving crashes across America during Thanksgiving, which accounted for 35% of all of the holiday traffic fatalities. So, plan ahead, just have that rideshare service, a designated non-drinking driver, or just stay overnight wherever you plan to celebrate. And we just everybody remember to think safety. I know it's one of those times where we're thinking, what else do I need to bring to dinner? What kind of gifts are we going to get on Black Friday? But we should really be thinking about safety first on the way to our Thanksgiving destinations as well as on the way home.
All right, Doug Shoup with AAA Texas. Doug, for those who want to get these tips again really quick, where can they go to get more information on you guys and print out or copy a list. People don't print anything
Yeah,
anymore,
we
but
have a
that's
lot of
just
this.
me.
Yeah, we have a lot of the stuff on AAA.com. And then also, if you need a little bit of help getting your vehicle road trip ready, AAA does offer a free service called the AAA Approved Auto Repair Program. And it's a place where you can go and find AAA approved, trusted auto repair facilities. And you can find that at AAA.com/AAR for approved auto repair.
All right, Doug Shoup, AAA Texas, thank you for your wonderful advice as we begin traveling this week for the holiday. Everyone be safe out there. Be careful out there.
Make sure you don't go anywhere. We have more Factor Uncensored coming your way, including if you have that big party or event to attend and you simply don't have the clothes in the closet.
This program is being brought to you by Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. I have learned it has become a multi-million-dollar industry, and I didn't even know it was going on. Aside from renting prom gowns and tuxedos, I had no idea people are renting high-end labels to attend events and then returning them. We have the experts to tell you how to do it and how to save money this holiday season.
My guest here, Bridget Waugh, was like, what the hell? Where have you been, Isaiah? And I'm like, at Walmart. And also we have with us influencer Rich Lux. So guys, I had no idea that you could rent clothes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how you kind of can, fake it till you make it. You can rent designer, high-end designer clothing, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, you name it. I mean, that has been the way to go, and it's not breaking the budget. Plus, being a fashionista, I don't want to be seen in the same thing twice.
And I don't think I've ever seen you in the same thing twice yet, Brigitte. Glad to have you here on The Factor. So, Rich,
Yes.
how long has this been going on that you can rent high-end fashion?
Listen, it's been going on for a while. It is a $2 billion industry that you can rent high-end fashion. And I remember when I was like 18, 21, I would rent tuxedos to go to a wedding or a party. So this is nothing new. It's just you take that aspect of renting tuxedos, but you're adding designer labels to it. And I think it's a great idea, especially if it's going to be a one-time wear.
Mm-hmm. And the idea, though, does that sit well with both of you wearing something that's rented? It feels like I'm cheating.
Not really, because they don't know unless you tell somebody. I mean, now
So what if they say, Brigitte, we want to borrow that outfit you had on the other day?
Oh, well, thank you.
What if they say that?
I mean, it's a compliment. But so here's the thing. When it comes to high-end luxury, all of us can't afford it, to just buy it off the rack. So now with this rental thing, it's an easier way to, enjoy those items without breaking the bank, if you will. And if no one's going around telling people, oh, yes, honey, I'm renting this. No one's going to say that. So it's not a problem amongst those that can afford it and buy it, just like that without even thinking about it, that have the disposable income, I should say, because renting it is just a way to save on a budget, but still look great, especially when you have an event. People rent prom dresses. I think that's kind of how it started, Rich, if I'm not mistaken, because you can spend up to $2,000 to $5,000 on a prom. So why do that when you can rent a dress for a couple of $100 and then get your hair and makeup done? Instead of spending $5,000, you spend maybe $500, well, $200 to $500 on your prom night and still look, excellent. So no, it doesn't offend them unless you're going around telling people, oh, I rented this, and I'm cheap just like you. Just wear it.
Like me or like them?
Well, like not you, Isaiah, because you go to Walmart.
But I will say that, but this is nothing new because I've rented cars before, that were way out of my league, these exotic vehicles. I've rented tuxedos. So to rent designer bags or something off the runway, I think it's cool. I don't know. I like that. It makes everyone now can be a star for a day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And plus, you're not spending money you really don't have. You're not putting yourself in a hole by trying to buy this Gucci or Louis Vuitton that you really can't afford. So you have it for one day, wear it, and send it back. Now I'm starting to get it, guys. You see this? You
Yeah.
see the evolution of Isaiah? We're
Yes.
evolving here.
There you
Yeah.
go. And it's a great way to keep up with the Joneses, but not break the bank, if you
Yeah.
will.
Bingo.
I still
And
don't know
a
who the
lot of people
Joneses
are
are.
suggesting it, guys, for the holidays as well. If you want something really nice to wear for the holidays, say a designer label, now is the time to put in your order.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead,
And,
Rich.
especially if like Isaiah, if you have a birthday party and let's say the theme is baby blue, and I don't have anything baby blue when it comes to like a nice tuxedo, I can rent one for that occasion, and I don't feel like I am breaking the bank to fit in.
And for women, what are the odds that you show up in the same dress?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
tough. So, because she went and bought her dress from J.C. Penney off the rack, or I'm just saying, just as the first person that came to mind.
Don't hate on JC Penney.
I'm just saying, but because they have nice, gowns or evening wear. However, there are many of them. But when you're renting your dress, you know for a fact that, more than likely it's one of a kind, or no one else will show up with the same thing that you have on. And that's a big thing for women.
And many
Yeah.
people are wondering, well, how do you do this? There's some apps I've heard about newly. Also, there's an app called Rent the Runway.
Runway,
So
yep.
there are several apps out there you need to look for rentable fashion. So we'll see what happens and see how people show up for the holidays. We want to thank you guys for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored, and happy holidays to the both of you.
We'll be back with more Factor Uncensored in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Many of us have used in some form of fashion the car service called Uber. But you always needed a credit card. But now that's going away for some. Let's get to it with our expert to ask why.
Joining us now is Dr. Dietrich von Biedenfeld. And Dr. von Biedenfeld, what we're hearing around the country and seeing slowly in phases, Uber is now accepting cash. Now, when they first started, it was a cashless system. You had to have a credit card in their app in order to get a ride from their many drivers around the country. But now that is slowly changing. We've seen changes in Hawaii, now Los Angeles, San Francisco. Where is Uber going with this, and why are they now all of a sudden accepting cash?
Right. And we go back to the root concern that cash acceptance brings, which is driver safety. Drivers carrying cash are oftentimes available to be targets of robberies, and that then diminishes the acceptability of their competition with other ride-sharing apps. At present, we still have a minimal number of assaults and other issues that happen during rideshare services across them. And so really not accepting cash hasn't deterred crime from certain elements. So that because that concern has been eliminated, they move to the second consideration, which is accessibility. And when you think about gas stations requiring $300 of initial pre-authorization, particularly with credit scores dropping, the government shutdown highlighting certain economic uncertainty, layoffs at nearing highs for this season. Those sorts of concerns mean that fewer people might be able to utilize their services, which can reduce revenue. So you want to increase accessibility not only for the altruistic reasons stated in these very limited circumstances. Of course, it's only between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m., only in these select markets. For now, but as they expand, they're going to test this theory and see if they can increase their rideshare utilization across competitors, whether it be Lyft or the former ideas of certain other competitors, to say we're the sort of everyman or every woman rideshare acceptability app, and we're going to take all your cash and make sure that our drivers are being employed.
Now, are they further putting the nail in the coffin when it comes to cabs, taxi services out there, maybe even bus rides where people still use a lot of cash? Are they going after those markets as well? Because they've all but, in some experts' opinions, decimated the taxi cab service around the country, even though they're still big in cities like New York.
Well, we know U.S. Americans are notoriously bad with money. And so with the lowering credit scores, this does open the door for individuals who might have otherwise only said, I've got $5, $10 of cash. I've maxed out my credit card. I'm not sure when my next payment is going to be made. I'll just take the bus. Wait a second. For $10, I can get across town, direct door-to-door service, because this app is now accepting it. So absolutely, we've seen delays with various public infrastructure in the Houston region. We've seen aging infrastructure across the country with rails and other public modes of transportation. And people are saying, wait a second, buses may not be the safest way, right? So we've seen a heightened media sensationalism of various crimes committed against passengers on these sort of public transportation things, where people say, I want to ride in an enclosed vehicle. I want to get door-to-door service. And now this agency is offering me a cash option where I don't have to pre-authorize and hold $200, $300 or risk my credit score going up. I can just say, what do I have in my pocket? This is what I can afford. And of course, if you book it and you don't have enough cash on hand, you really kind of get a little loan, because the next time you try to book through the app is when they'll try to charge you. So they'll let you take the ride. But if you realize that the ride is $20 and you only had 15, you don't have to pay the other $5 until you next book on the app. So you can a little bit control your credit utilization in this app.
Will we see higher rides for those who may be using cash, or less? Because then you don't have the swipe fees. Or did that even play a role when it comes to Ubers? I know Uber, because I know many businesses are complaining about those swipe fees. They have to pay the credit card companies a certain percentage. Well, if you're using cash, will the prices go down of Uber?
I'm not sure that the prices would go down, because those point of service sale percentages are relatively minimal, and it depends on the card, and it depends on who is going to pay it. But I do think driver satisfaction actually may go up, because drivers are going to have more transparency on what fees they're paying. So one of the complaints that's drawn on lack of clarity by drivers on what fees Uber is collecting. Do we get 100% of our tips? Okay, but also what percentage of the ride are we getting? So I think that cash may improve driver satisfaction, which will then improve customer service. And that further does put the nail in the coffin of taxis, where in a lot of these corporate environments or unionized environments, people sort of become functional employees, and they don't necessarily have the joy of their job. And so in that sense, as drivers say, hey, actually, I get to do this. I'm seeing transparently what I'm keeping. I get to see what I'm sending and disclosing to Uber or the other, rideshare accounting principles. This is a lot better for me. And then again, that lack of clarity that causes disgruntled employees sometimes is removed. But I do think that this will increase the ability of people to say, you know what, actually, I'm going to book a ride based on the cash that I have on hand, and it's going to open up a new market and demographic for them.
All right. We'll see what happens. And of course, if you are a Uber user, check your specific area to see if they now accept cash, if that's what you're interested in. And we'll see how this develops.
We'll be back with our second half hour, The Factor Uncensored, in just a moment, and why some homeowners should be concerned.
You're watching the Isiah Factor Uncensored.
And welcome back to the second half hour, The Factor Uncensored. Now, if you're a homeowner, you have a reason to be concerned right now in this country. A recent study by Zillow shows the value of homes around the U.S. have gone down. We brought in our expert to talk about it.
Joining us now to talk about this is Shad Bogany, a real estate expert and educator here in the Houston area. So, Shad, we're hearing that Zillow is reporting that the value of homes are dropping dramatically around the country in Texas, as well as other states. And we haven't seen anything like this since 2012. So what's going on out there?
Well, you have to look at, Isaiah, and thank you for allowing me to come on. You have to look at that real estate is local. Austin is having a drop in prices. They down about 11%. Keep in mind, though, Austin had the biggest jump in prices. Same way with Dallas. The Denver area has the biggest drop in value. But real estate is local. And in Houston, we've not seen that sort of drop here locally. Currently, right now, the median price of a home in Houston right now is right at 1%. We've lost 1% from a year ago. Average home price is flat. And so we've not seen any loss when you do the average home price. I think we have a balanced market here in the greater Houston area. I just came back from the National Association of Realtors Conference, and the realtors across the country are talking about how home sales are down, prices are down. I think when you look at, we have the uncertainty in the federal government. You've had all these layoffs of government workers. Imagine trying to sell a house in D.C. right now.
Right.
Who's
going to buy it? Who's going to buy it?
Right. Exactly. So I think it's so local, and we have to really focus on local. We have a balanced market here in Houston right now. And when I say balance, a year ago, we had 4.4 months of inventory. Right now, we have 5.2 months of inventory. What that means that if nobody put their house on the market, we'd be out of houses to sell in 5 months. A balanced market is considered 6 months. Now, I know in some areas you may have a little bit more. I know Galveston's been struggling a little bit, but overall, we're in a very balanced market, and I expect 2026 to be very balanced. Keep in mind that a lot of people bought houses pre-pandemic, 2021, 22, and they was paying top dollar for these houses. They were paying the peak prices, and now think about it right now. If you bought it 2 or 3 years ago and now you're trying to sell it, we're getting about 2%, 1% appreciation a year right now. You wouldn't have been, if you overpaid for it, you're not going to be able to get that money back unless you stay. And, real estate is so cyclical, it's up and down. And I think the key is just being able to stay in your home until the market goes back up.
When we talk about this current market and the value being down, would that make it, for those who are willing to sell, a buyer's market for individuals who are looking for homes to get a good deal on a home? Or should they wait as well because they could, underpay, overpay, what?
Well, I think it's a good time to buy now, and let me share with you that the public feels it's a good time to buy. We're sold so far through October, we've sold 7,900 homes so far through October. 7,900 people bought houses. A year ago, only 7,800 people had bought a house same time a year ago. So I think
we're talking about specifically Houston, right, or countrywide?
Right. I'm thinking about Houston. I'm talking about Houston specifically. So overall, if you're going to go in and buy a home right now, I don't see prices dropping drastically unless you're in Austin, unless you're in Dallas. Even San Antonio has dropped a little bit. But, overall, it's a good time to buy. Rates are right at about 6. Now, if you're sitting around waiting for rates to get to 3 to 4, you're probably going to be out of luck. You'll probably never buy. But rates are at 6% right now. So let's just say rates go down to 3%. But if the home prices are higher, are you really saving anything? So if rates go up and the value of the home goes down, are you really saving anything? You're really not at that point in time. I think it's a good time to buy because less houses are on the market right now. It's the fall, it's the off-peak season, people getting ready to move. But I think you just have to hire a professional, let them run the comparables in the area. Comparables are what houses have sold for in the last 6 months, and make an intelligent decision. Don't get emotionally involved in it right now. But overall, we've got a healthy Houston market and it's very balanced. Thank God I'm not in Austin right now.
We'll continue this conversation on The Factor right after the break. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. A recent study shows the value of homes around this country have gone down, the baddest since 2012. But there are some deals out there you may want to jump on at the end of the year. Let's get back to our expert.
And of course, let's talk about the time to buy, the specific time. You hear with cars, end of the year, they got to move inventory, get it out of there. Would the same thing hold true for homes when we're talking about newly built, new construction homes? Would it be now is the time?
I think for new construction, the end of the year is good because they've got to pay taxes on those houses. So going to new construction right now is a good time to buy at the end of the year. But the key is that you got to close by the end of December. You got to close by the end of December. And so new home construction is actually down. Sales are down about 2%. Pricing is down about 2%. A lot of the builders are giving a lot of incentives. A lot of them are doing special interest rates. They're giving a lot of upgrades. But if you got to build a house, you're probably not going to get that big of savings. But if you can take some inventory off the ground that the builder already has, I think you're going to be able to get a good deal. I've seen some builders at 3.99. I've seen some builders at 3%. It just depending on what's going on in that builder, how much inventory he has. If he has no inventory, Isaiah, I'm going to tell you, you're going to probably be paying peak prices, regular prices.
And for those who are wondering, you said some incentives are out there if they want to move that inventory before the end of the year and they have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
What are some of the incentives that people should look for, should ask about if that builder has inventory that they're looking to move?
I would say probably the biggest incentive is the interest rate. That is the most important thing as a buyer or consumer you need to be concerned about when you buy a house is the interest rate. So what I've seen out there, if the builder is giving you 3.99 or just say 4.5, for example, he's not lowering his price. If you take a regular interest rate, he's probably going to give you a lower price on the house. And I've seen some incentives as much as $40,000, $50,000 off of houses. But if he got to give you that low rate, he doesn't take anything off the house. But keep in mind that those low rates cost anywhere between $30,000 to $40,000, $50,000 for them to be able to give you a 3.99% interest rate.
And I think my last question here for you. You said you need to close by the end of the year. So
Right.
how soon, say if you are going to look at a house, how soon should you start the process? It is now the end of November. You want to start it by when to make sure that you're able to close by December, the end of December?
You need to start now, Isaiah. If you use the builder's mortgage company, you probably could write a deal on December 15th and be closed by December 31st. If you're using an outside lender, it may take a little bit longer. There's some that can do it in a couple of weeks, but I would say you need to start looking now. And don't expect to see another rate drop or a rate change at this point. I think if you're really serious about buying a house, you're going to get a good deal now and have Christmas in your home. So it's going to be really good that you go ahead and make a decision now. But the key to closing by the end of the year is typically the builders mortgage companies are going to get the deal done. They're going to speed it up. If you use an outside lender, as they call them, you probably won't close by it. It's rare when you're able to close that quickly.
Yeah, the builder, they have that incentive there to make that deal. An outside lender where they're going on vacation, whatever. I'll get back to it when
right. Yeah, we're staff limited. So, and then they'll promise you they're going to close at the outside lender and never get there. So my feeling is that most builders, if you use their lender, they are going to give you your most incentives when you use their lender.
All right. Shad Bogany, always good to see you here on The Factor Uncensored. And of course, we will look for any of those deals that are out there with the new builders and, jump on the market, at least here in the Houston area.
We'll be back with more Factor Uncensored in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. There are many athletes out there who make the conscious decision to turn their life over to Christ, to God. And we've sat down with two. Let's take a look.
One game in high school, I was playing receiver at the time, jumped up, got flipped, fell on my neck, and the doc went to the doctor. The doctor said, you might not play football ever again. And it took, but that was one of the biggest blessings because that was when I really dove into knowing who Christ is, and God basically told me, he was like, I have to be first if we're gonna go do this.
In my life, God used football to bring me to him. I'm gonna be honest with you, from a worldly perspective, I always looked at football with the glitz and the glamour, the money, the cars, like the lifestyle that came with it. And it got flipped on his head. The route that it took for me to get to the NFL, going undrafted, numerous injuries, all the hardship, it really humbled me and it really helped me surrender.
Now, that's just a preview from Derek and Marcus about life after the NFL and how they decided to turn their lives over to God. We'll have more. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Well, it's that time of year parents will be going out to buy their kids toys for the holidays. Now, parents need to be aware that their kids could get the wrong toy. Go in one door as a kid, come back out talking about the birds and the bees because they learned it from, get this, AI toys. Let's talk about it.
Joining us now here on The Factor Uncensored to talk about this is Aji Bolabudaran with the Fox 26 web team. Aji, so what were some of the problems that parents encountered with Kuma the bear?
Yeah, so first I want to start by saying when a lot of parents got these toys out of the box, there were certain safety rails on these AI models that were supposed to be kid friendly, which is why they put it into these toys. And, right out the box, the prompts worked pretty well. And even some parents said their kids were able to have good conversations and informative conversations. But what they learned is that as kids spoke with it more, when kids have a toy and they're left to their own devices, they may be talking to this toy, playing with this toy for hours on end. They realize that as they talk to them more and more, the guardrails kind of weaken. So, for example, one of the prompts had to do with matches. Not only did Kuma tell kids where to find matches in plastic bags, it also decided to say, once it heard matches, it started to talk about matches on dating sites. And Isaiah, it gets worse though, because not only were they talking about matches on dating sites, one of the dating sites they mentioned was one called Kink, and that led them to talk about fetishes, including bondage.
Oh my goodness!
And these are toys that are meant to be for kids from 3 to maybe 12 years old. So, I don't think most parents want their kids to be learning about bondage and other things like that. And they even talked about relationships with teachers and kids, and it talked about spanking being something that can be exciting and fun. So the main
kid goes into the room with the plush Kuma bear and comes out a grown-ass man, a grown-ass woman.
what they say, fast, with your fast self. But it's the toys.
Yeah.
It's the toys. And also, this was actually a part of a research study that included 3 different toys, and Kuma was specifically the one that they said was the worst, even though all 3 failed with their safeguards after extended play.
Wow, that's just incredible. Now, what they suggested was that parents, if you're going to get a kid an AI toy, you should play with it at least an hour to make sure it doesn't reveal or say anything that would be offensive or concerning to you as a parent. But I don't know if an hour is enough because, Aji, these things are powered by the internet and they learn.
Well, the thing I would ask is, would parents trust their kids to be unsupervised with the internet for hours on end, being able to go anywhere on the internet? I think most parents would say no. And I think also we have to realize that this is happening with kids' toys now, but we have seen AI chat models have really big consequences. Earlier this year, there was a kid who committed suicide after speaking with an AI chat model for an extended period of time. So, and that's an older kid. I think he was a teenager. So, I think it's something that parents should think heavily about. And if you do decide to get your kids these toys, it should be something where you're heavily supervising them, because it's unpredictable. When we're talking about AI models, we don't understand how they make every decision in the underlying code. So we don't know where it can go. It can start out very innocent, and matches can turn into talking about, sex and kinks. Like it's crazy.
Just mind-blowing. And I was looking at a list, Aji, here, the number of AI toys currently available, powered by ChatGPT, powered by AI, some form or another. And the list is just long. You check Amazon, they have a whole section dedicated to AI toys. So parents are just going to have to be very careful out there. I mean, There's only so much research. I mean, how much time do you have to spend with this AI toy to make sure you can trust it with your child? So the answer may be just no. Get your kid a racetrack like we
Yeah,
used to
and,
do.
yeah, and some parents might have to make hard decisions because kids want the new thing, and I mean AI is exciting. It's a lot of things. It can be helpful in a lot of ways, but it also can be dangerous when we don't understand how it works. And I think it should be something that maybe adults should be working with because you can actually think and know what's going on instead of being so impressionable because it gives them a lot of information.
All right. Ajibola Budaran, thank you for joining us from the Fox 26 web staff. And of course, keep your eye on social media for us so we can warn parents out there here on The Factor.
We want to thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. And remember to follow us on social media, download the Foxo app, and check out our YouTube page at The Isiah Factor Uncensored. Have a great one.